rebels in the world, stand up. If you're a rebel on the grind, you don't care what they mind.
Welcome to the Brave Podcast. I'm your host, Connie Jacob. Today, we're diving into something that I think we all experience. If you're a human, you have probably felt shame. You have probably been the victim of its evil grip and its claws that almost seep into us unexpectedly and subtly, that we don't even really realize that it's shame. We call it all kinds of other things, but that's what it is. Today, I was at a fascinating innovation in education workshop put on by my friend Jenna. She is starting an incredible mental health app for kids called Fledge. I've done an episode with her on it. If you haven't listened to it, please check it out. If you are a teacher or a parent, honestly, our kids are not doing okay. And she has an incredible answer to this problem. And I find that this is who I gravitate to. I gravitate to people who dare to dream for something different. I'm not talking about people who are trying to be big influencers or people who are well known. I'm talking about the mom who sees her child suffering and wants to solve the problem. That is somebody who I am for. I'm talking about the teacher who is looking around at education, looking around at the mental health issues that their students are facing, and they're thinking to themselves, something's got to be different. I want to do something different. I'm talking about the executive director who wants to lead an incredible organization. I'm talking about the entrepreneur who has an idea and wants to get it out there. One of the things that was said by the guest speaker, to be bold and courageous is the only way to build great things. But how do we be bold and courageous when shame is there, lurking at our door, telling us to just sit down and shut up? Nothing is ever going to change. Your child is always going to suffer. The education system is flawed, and you're a victim of this flawed system. And so therefore, just bunker down, do your report cards and stop complaining because apparently you get summers off. People are so toxic these days. I can't say anything without getting into trouble. So therefore, I can't lead my team. I'm an entrepreneur with an idea, but everybody else has ideas. Who am I to get mine out there? Those are all shame statements. Those are all rooted in shame. And I actually want to give you 12 keys to becoming shame resilient. Now, where did I get that word from? Well, I got it from our dear friend, Brene Brown, who has been studying shame for years. And if you haven't read her book, Daring Greatly, it is fantastic. I read it every so often when I need a little boost of courage. So here's one way that shame might look. If you are someone who is wanting to step out, be that parent, that teacher, that leader, that entrepreneur with an idea, you might have this whole idea of caring about what people think. And we don't want to care what people think, but the problem is that we're human. There lies our problem. If you are a human, you care what people think. And that is because of your neurobiology. The mirror neurons in your brain actually want to connect with other people. Therefore, when you want to connect with someone, you care what they think. And so, what we need to begin to cultivate in our lives to be able to move away from caring about what other people think is cultivating our own authenticity and our own, what I call brave belonging, putting myself outside of what people think, daring to step away from people who made me feel small and venture out sometimes alone. And that again is never a good thing for any human to be alone. But there's been seasons where I've had to, in order to find my authentic voice, who I am as a person, I've had to walk away from people who wanted to tell me who I am. This is how you should talk. This is how you should behave. This is how you should be. No, no, we don't do big ideas here. Who do you think you are? I remember the first book that I wrote. It was called Culture Rebel because the world has enough desperate housewives. And my heart behind this book was to just give women, new moms. I was a new mom. I wanted to give them something more to believe for and to dream for and to live for, just outside of being the yummy mummy or just having the best stroller on the street. I just wanted to inspire them to do something different. And one of my mentors at the time actually said to me, "Why do you want to write a book? What are you trying to be? Famous?" And because I cared about what this person thought, it deeply impacted me. And I had to make a brave decision to decide to step away from that person so that I could authentically do something that I knew in my heart I needed to do. Another shame trigger is perfectionism. Where are all my perfectionists at? I'm going to be really honest. I'm actually not a perfectionist, but I was raised by one. And then I married one. Actually, I love people. I call my husband not a perfectionist. I call him a precisionist because he does our home reno business. And you don't want me, who's not a perfectionist, renovating your bathroom. You want my husband, who is a precisionist, getting in there. The perfectionism I'm talking about is a little bit more about I won't do it unless it's right. I won't step out and say what I want to say. I won't step out to dream for my classroom unless it's going to be perfect. I won't dream for my child because I don't know enough. I need a PhD in psychology in order to parent this kid. So I'm just going to throw my hands up. Unless I'm a perfect leader, no one will follow me. Unless I have the perfect marketing plan and the perfect branding, I'm not going to be able to get my idea that's going to change the world out there. Do you hear the shame in all of those statements? Because I value creativity so much, one of the things that I know about the creative process, which is anyone who is being brave to lead something worth leading, being willing to lead your home, lead your class, lead your team, lead your idea, anything worth leading is going to take a process. And we have to be okay with the messy process. It's the process that makes us. It's the process that actually allows us to see this thing come to life. And people love real. However, I love the real in you. I love when you show up real. But I don't know if I love it when I'm the one that has to show up real. See, we love it in other people, but when it's us, it's like, oh, no, 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 no. I don't want to be the one that's real. And yet it's what we all need. And just know that one of the things that I teach parents and educators in mental health is that resilience doesn't come from being perfect. Resilience comes from how we repair ruptures. Resilience comes from how we are living out the messy middle. And so perfectionism actually robs us and there's shame whispering in our ear. You are never enough. You will never be able to do fill in the blank enough. What's your fill in the blank? For me, I've always had to really hustle my way anywhere I go. I've always had to work very, very hard to be anywhere. So if you ever see on my highlight reel on my social media, you're not seeing the hours and the years of sweat that has gone into what I do. And I always feel like maybe if I was more talented, it wouldn't have taken that long, or I would have more doors open for me that are just easy, easy doors. But that's not the truth. That's shame telling me that if you were just smarter or prettier or just all those things, this would be easier. And I know from creative process that that is not the truth. It takes time. Shame looks like feeling powerless and maybe numbing because we feel powerless. I have shared my story about the year that I actually had a drinking problem. When we were in the middle of our mental health crisis with one of our boys, I thought that that was going to be the rest of my life. The way our home was chaotic. I would even call it dysfunctional. It was not a safe, warm, brave space at all. In fact, it was falling to pieces. And I thought, this is going to be the rest of my life. I felt powerless. And shame was telling me that if you were a better mother, you would never be feeling these things. Your boys would be thriving. See those other moms? They know what they're doing. You don't. And so shame had a heyday with me. And so having a big glass of whiskey every night was the way I would numb. The reason why people drink isn't because they think, oh, what a great idea. There's often a story attached to any kind of addiction. And so there I was drinking myself to sleep every night. I mean, everybody was in bed. I'm not hurting anybody as an addict would say. I'm just doing this to myself, but why was I there? I love Dr. Gabor Mate. He talks about not why the addiction, but why the pain. And I was in pain. And that whiskey knocked me out. It did. It gave me a good sleep. I was able to forget about my life for a night. The problem is you wake up the next morning. Many of you know the story of how I called up a friend about 6 months in. I knew this wasn't healthy, and I said, I'm doing this, and she shamed me. She actually brought more shame on me by calling me out, making me feel like I was the worst person in the world. And I mean, after I got off the phone with her, I had 2 drinks, not because I wanted to, but because I felt so desperate. But fast forward a year later, I called another friend and she said, Connie, you've forgotten who you are. You've forgotten that you're a warrior. You've forgotten that you're brave. You've forgotten that you have a calling on your life to make a difference in the world. I'm getting down in the muck with you. I'm grabbing you by the hand and I'm not letting you go until you remember who you are. And guess who hasn't drank herself to sleep since? Powerlessness will always lead to numbing. Sometimes we don't have those people in our lives. Sometimes we need to find our inner grit and find that in ourselves. I didn't have that when I went through the crisis with my son. I had to write over myself. I am brave. I show up when it's hard. I love without walls. I forgive when it hurts, and I rise through the storm. I wrote that alone. And so I've experienced both. You have probably experienced both, but both create this inner resilience of who do I have the courage to become in this moment? Scarcity is shame in disguise. There's not enough. There's not enough budget. Nope, we don't have enough budget for that. There's not enough money. There's nothing. Don't go there. Don't even try. It's like, no, how can we be creative in constraint? Needing to be guaranteed the outcome is shame. It's like my cards are on the table only if I can guarantee that this is going to turn out good. Well, friends, I've been around the inventor block, the entrepreneurial block, the dreaming for what can be enough times. I've been around that block, and I'll tell you, everything that you expect will sometimes happen, maybe happen, will happen, but you don't know. Would I continue to risk to dream for education if it only felt like I made a small dent? Would I still do it? Friends, my answer to that is yes. It's a resounding yes in my heart. And that tells me that this is more than just a good idea to me. This is a call. This is a something that matters deeply to me. And if I don't do it, if you didn't read my blog on the 10 ways to get over your fears, I have it on YouTube, I have it on Spotify and Apple. Check it out, because what I did was I walked myself through 10 questions. Every time I'm afraid of the outcome, because I don't know what the outcome will be. I have led people who have betrayed me. I have led organizations that have ended. I have led things that didn't work out and actually ended up hurting me and disappointing me. But I realized that all of those were things that I felt that I needed to lead. And they were not in vain. Nothing is in vain. And I would do them all over again if I had to, because love is always a risk. To be brave is to risk. To lead others is to risk. And to dream is to risk. And so shame wants you to be stuck in the box of it has to be certain. The outcome has to be guaranteed. Friends, there is no guarantee it's going to work. One of the biggest revelations that I had from my 10 steps of leading myself out of fear was that my worthiness does not come from whether something succeeds or not. Take that, shame. Comparison is also shame in disguise. I'm guilty of comparing myself. I look at the way other people communicate. I look at how beautiful women just seem to get yeses out of everybody. That's just my perception. It's probably not true. If you're a beautiful woman, you're probably like, I've never experienced that. What are you talking about? We all have these weird ideas of what would happen if you were something else, somebody else, could do this better, be more like that person. We all have that. And what it does is it robs us of who we are. But shame wants to keep us there. Your friend shares that they just got a book deal and you've been trying for 12 years and you're trying so hard to be happy for them, but inside you're like, why not me? I just want you to know in that moment you're having a human experience and we just need to normalize that. A remedy for comparing is to get creative. Find your own inner creativity. We all have it. You have an inner creativity. I had the pleasure of going to a session on how they train guide dogs. It was so enlightening how these families train up these dogs so that they can go and live with somebody with a disability. It was beautiful. And one of the things that they mentioned was this phrase, intelligent disobedience. Well, I instantly perked up at that. And when I heard that term, I thought, "Ooh, what's that?" And what it was sometimes as the dog begins to be trained and understands what that person they're serving needs, if that person is doing something that's not good for them, the dog will disobey them and will redirect them. Intelligent disobedience. And I wonder what kind of intelligent disobedience is in you to keep putting up with the things that you don't want to put up with. I'm not thinking of Twisted Sister. We're not gonna take it. I'm not talking about that kind of rebellion. I'm talking about this inner creativity that can only be stirred by dissatisfaction. You have creativity inside of you that will move you away from comparing yourself to others because you're going to be doing something that's unique just to you. The need to produce is also a big shame alarm. You know, always needing to go, always needing to work, always needing to produce. That comes if we sit down long enough, we can fizzle out and we can deconstruct and we can see shame at the bottom. Now, I'm not saying that working hard and loving to work means that you have shame in your life. I'm not saying that. I work very hard. I love to work and I love what I do. But my need to perform and achieve, if you fizzle that thing down, if I'm really honest, shame is telling me you're not enough unless you. And I want you to think about that for a moment. You're not enough unless you. What's your fill in the blank? I have a confession. If you ever meet me in person, you might be gravely disappointed. I have people who have followed me online, meet me in person, and they're so like, oh, like, and I'm like, I am just like you. Like we are so normal right now. But some people are weird, and they're like, well, I can't believe it, it's Connie Jacob, and that's actually funny. That it really is weird. But it's interesting that after that conversation, I feel like I've really let them down. They're like, "Oh, like you, I thought you were so cool. I thought you were, you look like you just have it all together. And after talking to you, I realized you are just a normal human being." And I've always, because of that, always had shame tell me, if you were just more cool as a cucumber, maybe you don't let people in right away. Maybe you just have a little bit of a standoffness to you, or maybe you're just like, yeah, I'm pretty something, aren't I? Like maybe if you were just a little bit more cool and in control, people might not have that reaction. I can't. I can't. I am quirky. I am weird. I am warm. I am fun. I am full of laughter. I love joy. It's my jam. And when you meet me, if you think I'm weird, well, that's okay. There's a lot of weird people out there, and those are my people. If I ever did decide to listen to shame, I would lose my favorite parts of me, which is joy. I am a very joyful person. And this idea of I just feel so free in me. Joy makes me feel free in me. And it actually takes shame and it looks it in the face and it says, yeah, not today. And it throws it away. And that's why I dance. Some people think it's weird. I'm almost 50. I'm 50 in November. And they're like, why do you dance? I'm like, it reminds me to keep fun and play in my life. I'm not trying to stay young. I'm trying to keep joy in my life and pass it on. What shame trigger are you experiencing right now? Are you caring a lot about what people think? You'll always care about what people think, but are you caring too much? Are you finding yourself being trapped with perfectionism? Are you feeling powerless in your life and maybe you're numbing? Do you have this scarcity mindset that there's just not enough? Do you need to have a guarantee of the outcome? Are you basing your self-worth on how much you produce and what you do? Are you feeling like you have to show up cool as a cucumber? To cultivate the opposite is going to give you the shame resilience that you need in order to step out, to be brave, to lead in your home, lead in your class, lead your team, lead an idea. So what I've created for you this week is a cheat sheet on what will create the opposites. If you're experiencing perfectionism, I've got the cheat sheet all ready for you of what the remedy is. And if you would like that, all you have to do is go to conniejacob.com and go to contact and just say, send me the shame cheat sheet, and I will send it to you. I want you to feel so bold and courageous in your life so that you can build something great that you're proud of, and that you know every day that you're living your life on purpose and with all the bravery in your heart. And I am cheering you on. Keep going.